Welcome to Innovations and Breakthroughs with your host, Rich Goldstein, talking about the evolutionary, the revolutionary, the inspiration and the perspiration, and those aha moments that change everything. And now, here's your host, Rich Goldstein.
Rich Goldstein here, host of the Innovations and Breakthroughs podcast, where I feature top leaders and the path they took to create change. Past guests include Joe Polish, Roland Frazier, and Kevin King. This episode is brought to you by my company, Goldstein Patent Law, where we help you to protect your ideas and products. We've advised and obtained patents for thousands of companies over the past 28 years. So if you're a company that has software, a product, or a design you want protected, go to goldsteinpatentlaw.com, where there are amazing free resources for learning about the patent process. You could also email my team at welcome@goldsteinpc.com to explore if it's a match to work together. You could also check out the book I wrote for the American Bar Association that explains in plain English how patents work. It's called the ABA Consumer Guide to Obtaining a Patent. I have with me here today Nick Hughes. Nick is the creator of the Founders Live community. It's a social platform for entrepreneurs all around the world. Nick started Founders Live in Seattle back in 2016 in order to create community that inspires, educates, and entertains entrepreneurs. Since then, Founders Live has grown to host virtual and in-person events in approximately 100 cities worldwide. And it's my pleasure to welcome here today, Nick Hughes. Welcome, Nick.
It's a pleasure. Thank you so much. I'm excited to chat and, just enjoy the time here.
Absolutely. So, of course, let's talk about Founders Live and kind of where the inspiration came from to inspire, educate, and entertain entrepreneurs.
Yeah. So you'd mentioned there 2016. Actually, the story starts in 2014. I'm from Seattle, Washington, here in the United States. And, basically at the time, I just wanted to get people together and have a good time. And so we just put on an event. I organized this event, said, hey, we're going to have a pitch competition. Let's pre-select 5 early stage startup founders. They're each going to only pitch for 99 seconds. So that was like the rule that I had figured out back then. Short pitches. Then right after that, there's going to be 4 minutes that the audience can ask questions with that individual. We then cycle through the 5 in that fashion. At the end, the crowd, not judges, the crowd votes on which one they thought was the best of the evening, and that's the winner. And basically that very first event, which was in March of 2014, it was not called Founders Live at the time. It was just a great event. And, I would say I saw very interesting seeds of a really cool experience start at that moment in time. I can continue that story in a second, but I'll just say that, every amazingly global thing starts as just an idea and a trial. And that's what we did.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Yeah, I love that. And so true. I mean, it really is like how everything that has been created starts. And so let's talk about those seeds, right? Like the seeds of what you experienced at that moment with that trial event.
Yeah. The seeds were, this obviously it was a, event. It was a gathering, networking, in the startup community. But, not only did I see like, wow, okay, there's communities forming. So to kind of carry along the story is I just kept doing that event for literally 2 years, every month in Seattle. Just said, all right, hey, let's get new startups coming in to pitch, highlighted more, early stage startups, and the community started forming. So number one, people were coming back, right? And so if you think about like, look, whatever you're creating, whether it's a physical in-person gathering or it's a product or it's a service, people kept using it, kept coming back. Right. So there's repeat customers here. That was really interesting. Community was forming. And then I would say that as it continued forward, the initial aspects of what our core values are today. So core values just kind of started to form. And I can go in depth on those, but the point is that the brand started to form its unique experience and feeling that really started to identify what Founders Live was. And this was even before the Founders Live name was created. I just say like the uniqueness was starting to form where we weren't like other pitch competitions or pitch things, not just in Seattle, but other cities. So we started to create our unique core values, the feeling and experience that was in that room. The brand started to form before we even named it, the significant name that it is now. And so I think that's you start seeing those things and you just pay attention. If you're the founder, you need to pay attention to how people are responding to what you've created. Keep what's working, remove what's not. And then we just kept going from there for like 2 years in Seattle, just kept holding that event until I started to sense things from other parts of the country and the world. Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. And so just as far as that, like it sounds like you're really tuned into the experience and how it and how people are related to it, or people are relating to it, like the things that they're enjoying about the experience, the things that are maybe not landing, and maybe kind of change those up. But it seems like you created a culture. You created kind of a culture around this type of experience or this type of feeling, and it's like, core values that a lot of organizations have are often around kind of things like respect, right? Like respect, or one of our core values is quality work, right? But your core values is about around kind of no name tags, right? Gathering around the campfire, that type of feeling of like when you're telling stories around the campfire, about people just being authentic and out on the stage sharing how they really feel about things, how they really are, like what, and like those types of core values. It's very interesting. I've never seen a set of core values like that, is what I'm saying. Is it's around kind of like, this is what we want the feeling to be at our events.
Well, yeah. And, I think what I learned with identifying these core values, my quick thoughts on that are, you want to pick things that are in some ways, I guess, very distinct and isolating, simply because you want to drastically attract your core customers like a magnet, and you want to repel some people and customers like a magnet, and that's fine, right? The stronger that magnet is, at least the stronger the brand affinity is going to be. So, we created those, the core values, and, we're kind of going in back order here, but around that same time, I would say here's the inflection point that really has brought things into the present day. I was holding this event for like a couple of years in Seattle, and people are reaching out actually via LinkedIn and other things like, hey, that's really cool. Can we do that in our city? Or how do we, take this and really run with it? And so I started to talk with other entrepreneurs and founders around the world. And here's what I discovered that I feel like was absolutely the like mission changer for me in Founders Live, was I really, with these conversations globally, I discovered that there's a tremendous amount of talent all around the world. Like there's talented people everywhere building or attempting to build amazing things, wanting to move forward. The problem is most all of them are underserved, overlooked, and really just don't have the opportunity for success. And why is that? And really, it's just simply the way the world is right now, which is, typically the investment community is serving the top 0.5%, whatever that percent is determined to be. Most people are really kind of still boxed out of the global entrepreneurship game. And I said, wow, there's really 4 things we identified that we think could really open the doors for global entrepreneurship. Number 1 is really inclusion into the global community and network. We saw the community start forming in Seattle, started to see kind of, in the US was kind of bubbling, but, obviously globally there's people everywhere, and, just inclusion into the builders and creators community. Number 2 is access to the right education and information. How do you build a great company and growth in today's world? Well, it's different. You can't read it in a textbook. How do they learn it? Obviously, we need to get people the right information to be successful. Thirdly, was really access to the right resources, whether that's technologies, products, people, and then also growth capital. So access to, the capital that's needed to operate and grow their company. And then lastly was global exposure. So how do we help early stage companies really kind of bottle up that pitch message and get it out to the right partners, customers, investors, literally across like borders and continents. That's really what Founders Live became and formed into, is now a global ecosystem that we have grown and spread to, about 100 cities around the world in 31 countries. It really is it's comprised of the event that, we're now back in person. These are showcases of early stage entrepreneurship talent. They are pitch competitions and they're fun. We're now back in person. And really and then our digital global ecosystem that really does aggregate a lot of our partners in global community, so they can engage and, find each other and do great things. And so it was really in that transition, and that major transition was in 2016, was when I created the Founders Live brand. And then over the last, 6 years now, we've just absolutely grown. And, the pandemic was a bit of a, just kind of a pause, and we're just trying to, everyone was trying to figure things out. But we're now back to our growth and our expansion, and there's so much that we're going to do going forward. We're excited about it.
Yeah, absolutely. As a matter of fact, I think we spoke a few months back, and you were in Indonesia, and you were, I think it was, maybe it was 12 noon for me, and it was 12 midnight for you. And you were in the process of launching a location, launching a city there for Founders Live. So what was that like? How was it, kind of being back on the road traveling, and kind of what are some of the things you've seen?
Oh, it's it's really hard to put into words the feeling of creating something that was simply a Google Doc at one point in time, created in your city, and then it started to expand. And then now it's literally across the world. And, I travel to various Founders Live cities now and meet our city leaders, our team, meet the founders, and really see entrepreneurship on the ground. Like that, there's only one way to do that. And you got to be there. And so it was really amazing. Again, my thesis is, look, we're all humans. We're all trying to move forward. We're all doing, we want to solve problems. We want to be innovative, creative, and impact our cities, communities, and maybe even the world. And they're amazing. And they just need a bit more infrastructure. They need a bit more, built out, community and resources. And obviously we're working on that. We're one of the players there. But we've expanded to, 20 plus, I think the number is 25, but we've actually had 21 cities have Founders Live events in Indonesia, 21 different cities. We're talking about the fourth largest country in the world, 276 million people, massive. I mean, they're still developing, and it's an incredible thing. But it was hard because of the language barrier. So Bahasa Indonesia is their main language. There's actually 100 plus dialects and languages that are spoken there. So English is definitely not as prevalent. That was hard. The culture shock was a bit different. It was tough being there. It's just a different city, different culture. And obviously trying to navigate it was not easy, but, I can tell you, just being over there inspires me, meeting those people that have a vision and a dream, and we're a part of helping them make that happen. That's what keeps me going every day.
Awesome. I've got an interesting question for you. Just occurred to me. It's kind of has to do with how entrepreneurs in places like that consider their idea in terms of fear of it being stolen, because it's very interesting. I'll just tell you a super quick story. Is I met the chairman of the Chinese patent office some years back, and he said that big challenge is to get small companies to want to protect their IP, because they don't typically think of an idea as something that you would protect or even that you would steal. We often think of Chinese as stealing ideas. They don't think of it like that way at all. They think of it like, well, you make your money by hustling, by making the product better or cheaper, or getting the relationship to make the product at your factory. They don't think of it as like, well, I've got an idea. And like, it seems to what I've realized is it's a very American concept, right? Is that I've got like, it's the American dream, having the idea that itself becomes the basis of wealth. So I imagine that varies around the world of how cautious entrepreneurs are about pitching their idea. And so it just occurred to me that you might be a guy with a front row seat to that. And I'm just wondering if you've noticed anything.
It's a good question. What I would say is in terms of what I saw there, I would say that there wasn't a lot of hesitation from, wanting to pitch or not, or sharing the idea or not. I wouldn't say that there's a lot of hesitation there. Secondly, I would say that, protecting IP is something that obviously is important, and an important consideration. And it really does depend on obviously the what is the entire IP construction of the business, the technology, if you're building, whatever you're doing, right? So obviously it's unique to every single startup. So I think my encouragement is obviously talk to someone, like Rich or others that would help you with whatever that specifics are on that. But thirdly, and I don't want to. Okay, this is my flat out honest answer, is that I've been thinking about this a lot, and I'm like, look, ideas they actually can't get stolen. Ideas cannot be stolen. Intellectual property specific to specific functions,
how you manifest that idea into something. Yeah,
that can be copied, sure, and you obviously want to protect yourself and your company in that. Let's put that aside for a second. Success really is dependent pretty much solely on execution, and then also I would say distinct uniqueness that now wraps back into the core values and the brand experience, right? So my thought here, and I said this when I was over there actually, so there was a few questions around this, but my answer was around how you create your uniqueness in the market is really around what is the brand experience, what is the core values. And so people can literally, like, you can't copy core values because it becomes so fraudulent and obvious. It's like, oh, that's just ridiculous.
Those are someone else's core values.
Right. So, how do you as a company and a founding team manifest the experience of your brand and your product and your company? That, my friends, I think is the way that you protect or build that initial moat around your business. And of course, looking at protection of IP and all that is important. But I would just say, look, don't worry about your idea getting stolen. What you want to really consider is how do we really implant into our market and our industry an incredibly unique brand that people identify with. They just know if there's anyone trying to play over here and copy, it's like, get out of here. And you then have a moat that you can continue to build around. And it's really the brand voice and the those core values that are a part of it. And then what people experience when they use your product. It's all those things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
absolutely. And, and I agree with you. I mean, like, there is an overemphasis on someone's going to steal my idea. I think it pays to take the right steps, but like, there are so many more things that contribute to your success that overemphasizing IP, overemphasizing protection of ideas is a distraction from focusing on the things that are really going to help differentiate you, that are going to help.
Well, and remember, I know, I do remember our conversation. It was a little later in the night for me, but it comes back now, which was,
I thought it was a dream.
Oh, it's crazy. But we talked about this, and it's like obviously there's a right time for early stage startups to invest in the proper protection practices for their concept and their IP. And you said it, it's like, look, sometimes it's not the right cost or outlay initially in the life cycle of this startup, but there's a moment in time where this investment is important. And I would just say the construction of both, really creating that brand and what it's about and the intangibles, and then the tangibles of IP come in. And when you're ready to invest in that and get some protection and bring in someone like, Rich or others, that IP protection, boom, those two together really are, I feel, the right path forward. And, the startup needs to determine when they're ready to do that with the budget and everything that they have in place there.
Yep. No, absolutely. I think that's great. And that's great advice.
Awesome.
And yeah, like I said, I'm just kind of curious how that culture is around the world, because you have, a lot of people pitching their startup, and obviously they want to put the idea out there and get people to resonate with it and to give them feedback and to invest with them. But, they don't want someone else to, they don't want to feel stupid if someone else were to beat them to it. So I just find it.
I want to come back to, though, and I think this is a point that, given the show, I mean, the topic of this podcast and people that are listening, look, I've been doing this for 8+ years now, right? This is like, the life of this whole thing is 8+ years. I incorporated in, 6+ years ago. And, it is absolutely amazing to see something grow literally across the world, and people pick up and run with a concept and an idea, a vision that, again, was just started on a Google Doc and then just tested out in one city, and seeing that, and to see it manifest in the world and to see people be impacted by it is something that I just hope as many people as possible can experience the feeling that I felt by creating something like this and seeing it across the world. And
that's exactly what you're doing. You're leading by example. Like, you've taken something from a kernel of like, is this something that people will want? And you tested it and people liked it. And then there was repeat customers, and then you grew it out into the world. Right. So and what you're growing out in the world is the ability for other people to have that same experience.
Yep.
So, it's like you're leading by example and giving people the opportunity to have that experience.
Yeah, it's fun. It's the best thing in the world, but it's difficult, not easy at all. And, I just, we deal with those ups and downs, but it's very rewarding.
Yep. The entrepreneurial journey with its ups and downs. Awesome. Well, if people want to learn more about you or get in touch with you, how do they go about doing so?
Yeah. So you can go to founderslive.com. You can see what we all offer there. And, we have our global community. We have, there's events, we have calendars. So, what is Founders Live in my city? Maybe the first question you ask, you can go find that. There's frequent events that are taking place now back into in-person events. And then you can find me on LinkedIn as well. I'm pretty active on LinkedIn, less active on, maybe the more traditional social networks now. Those are kind of fading away, in my opinion. But and then flipping back to the founderslive.com, if you don't see Founders Live available in your city or country, absolutely reach out. We do have an expansion page. You just go to founderslive.com/expansion, but you can find that there. Fill that thing out. Hey, we would love to talk with you. And if it might be a good fit to join our leadership team globally to help run our events and be a leader, would love to talk with you all, and maybe know someone as well. So feel free to reach out to us. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Nick. I really appreciate you taking the time to join us today.
It was a pleasure. And again, if you are a founder, I either know of, I got your answer, we can find your answer, we can help you get connected in the community. So please reach out.
Awesome.
Thanks for listening to Innovations and Breakthroughs with your host, Rich Goldstein. Be sure to click subscribe, check us out on the web at innovationsandbreakthroughs.com, and we'll see you next time.